The Snow Image by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jesse. The Snow Image by Nathaniel Hawthorne. A Childish Miracle. One afternoon of a cold winter's day, when the sun shone forth with chilly brightness after a long storm, two children asked leave of their mother to run out and play in the new fallen snow. The elder child was a little girl, whom, because she was of a tender and modest disposition and was thought to be very beautiful, her parents and other people who were familiar with her used to call Violet. But her brother was known by the style and title of Peony, on account of the ruddiness of his broad and round little phiz, which made everybody think of sunshine and great scarlet flowers. The father of these two children, a certain Mr. Lindsay, it is important to say, was an excellent but exceedingly matter-of-fact sort of man, a dealer in hardware, and was sturdily accustomed to take what is called the common-sense view of all matters that came under his consideration. With a heart about as tender as other people's, he had a head as hard and impenetrable, and therefore, perhaps, as empty, as one of the iron pots which it was a part of his business to sell. The mother's character, on the other hand, had a strain of poetry in it, a trait of unworldly beauty, a delicate and dewy flower, as it were, that had survived out of her imaginative youth, and still kept itself alive amid the dusty realities of matrimony and motherhood. So Violet and Peony, as I began with saying, besought their mother to let them run out and play in the new snow, for though it had looked so dreary and dismal, drifting downward out of the grey sky, it had a very cheerful aspect now that the sun was shining on it. The children dwelt in the city and had no wider play-place than a little garden before the house, divided by a wide fence from the street, and with a pear tree and 2 or 3 plum trees overshadowing it, and some rose bushes just in front of the parlor windows. The trees and shrubs, however, were now leafless, and their twigs were enveloped in the light snow, which thus made a kind of wintry foliage, with here and there a pendant icicle for the fruit. "Yes, Violet, yes, my little Peony," said their kind mother, "you may go out and play in the new snow." Accordingly the good lady bundled up her darlings in woolen jackets and wadded sacks, and put comforters round their necks, and a pair of striped gaiters on each little pair of legs, and worsted mittens on their hands, and gave them a kiss apiece, by way of a spell to keep away Jack Frost. Forth sallied the two children with a hop, skip, and jump that carried them at once into the very heart of a huge snowdrift, whence Violet emerged like a snow bunting, while little Peony floundered out with his round face in full bloom. Then what a merry time had they! To look at them, frolicking in the wintry garden, you would have thought that the dark and pitiless storm had been sent for no other purpose but to provide a new plaything for Violet and Peony, and that they themselves had been created, as the snowbirds were, to take delight only in the tempest and in the white mantle which it spread over the earth. At last, when they had frosted one another all over with handfuls of snow, Violet, after laughing heartily at little Peony's figure, was struck with a new idea. "You look exactly like a snow image, Peony," said she, "if your cheeks were not so red. And that puts me in mind. Let us make an image out of snow, an image of a little girl, and it shall be our sister, and shall run about and play with us all winter long. Won't it be nice?" "Oh, yes!" cried Peony, as plainly as he could speak, for he was but a little boy. "That will be nice, and mamma shall see it." "Yes," answered Violet, "mamma shall see the new little girl, but she must not make her come into the warm parlor, for, you know, our little snow sister will not love the warmth." and forthwith the children began this great business of making a snow image that should run about, while their mother, who was sitting at the window and overheard some of their talk, could not help smiling at the gravity with which they set about it. They really seemed to imagine that there would be no difficulty whatever in creating a live little girl out of the snow. And, to say the truth, if miracles are ever to be wrought, it will be by putting our hands to the work in precisely such a simple and undoubting frame of mind as that in which Violet and Peony now undertook to perform one, without so much as knowing that it was a miracle. So thought the mother, and thought likewise that the new snow, just fallen from heaven, would be excellent material to make new beings of, if it were not so very cold. She gazed at the children a moment longer, delighting to watch their little figures. The girl, tall for her age, graceful and agile, and so delicately colored that she looked like a cheerful thought more than a physical reality, while Peony expanded in breadth rather than height, and rolled along on his short and sturdy legs as substantial as an elephant, though not quite so big. Then the mother resumed her work. What it was I forgot, but she was either trimming a silken bonnet for Violet or darning a pair of stockings for little Peony's short legs. Again, however, and again, and yet other agains, she could not help turning her head to the window to see how the children got on with their snow image. Indeed, it was an exceedingly pleasant sight, those bright little souls at their task. Moreover, it was really wonderful to observe how knowingly and skillfully they managed the matter. Violet assumed the chief direction and told Peony what to do, while with her own delicate fingers she shaped out all the nicer parts of the snow figure. It seemed, in fact, not so much to be made by the children as to grow up under their hands while they were playing and prattling about it. Their mother was quite surprised at this, and the longer she looked, the more and more surprised she grew. "What remarkable children mine are!" thought she, smiling with a mother's pride, and smiling at herself too, for being so proud of them. What other children could have made anything so like a little girl's figure out of snow at the first trial? Well, but now I must finish Peony's new frock, for his grandfather is coming tomorrow, and I want the little fellow to look handsome. So she took up the frock, and was soon as busily at work again with her needle as the two children with their snow image. But still, as the needle travelled hither and thither through the seams of the dress, the mother made her toy light and happy by listening to the airy voices of Violet and Peony. They kept talking to one another all the time, their tongues being quite as active as their feet and hands. Except at intervals she could not distinctly hear what was said, but had merely a sweet impression that they were in a most loving mood and were enjoying themselves highly, and that the business of making the snow image went prosperously on. Now and then, however, when Violet and Peony happened to raise their voices, the words were as audible as if they had been spoken in the very parlor where the mother sat. Oh, how delightfully those words echoed in her heart, even though they meant nothing so very wise or wonderful after all. But you must know a mother listens with her heart much more than with her ears, and thus she is often delighted with the thrills of celestial music when other people can hear nothing of the kind. "Peony, Peony!" cried Violet to her brother, who had gone to another part of the garden. "Bring me some of that fresh snow, Peony, from the very farthest corner where we have not been trampling. I want it to shape our little snow sister's bosom with. You know that part must be quite pure, just as it came out of the sky." "Here it is, Violet," answered Peony in his bluff tone, but a very sweet tone too, as he came floundering through the half-trodden drifts. "Here is the snow for her little bosom. Oh, Violet, how beautiful she begins to look!" "Yes," said Violet thoughtfully and quietly, our snow sister does look very lovely. I did not quite know, Peony, that we could make